This is a legend well known in the lands of Venezuela and Colombia. A legend whose main feature is not its visual appearance, but rather its characteristic sound. We find ourselves in the middle of the 19th century in the wide plains of Guanarito, a municipality of the state of Portuguesa, located to the west of Venezuela, considered the granary of the Republic for the large amount of agricultural products obtained there. This place gave rise to this legend, which is one of the most recent, so to speak. The Silbón is an entity of a thin and elongated appearance, reaching approximately 6 meters, thus managing to stand out among the trees and walk stealthily, showing off his scary appearance along with his straw hat, his clothes straps, and an old sack, in which, they assure, he carries human bones. In fact, the legend says they are those of his unfortunate father. Accompanied by its imposing appearance that strikes the sense of sight of that poor being who is unlucky enough to come across it, the sense of hearing is the main harm when you meet this entity, because, although you cannot see it, if you are in the plains, in a lighted street, or even inside the house, you will be able to hear it. Its main characteristic, and for which this name has been won, is its distinctive whistle. They assure these are sounds in cycles of the tones of C, ascending to F, and descending to B. What is told about these whistles and the effects they produce when listening to them, apart from causing a scare and a bad time to whoever has the bad luck of hearing it, is that if you listen to them closely, you can be calm, because it means that it is very far from where you are. But the farther you listen to it, the closer it is to you. It is said that listening to that is only a foreshadowing of death, and that it can be heard anywhere, now or in the environment. And to hear it from afar, there is no other salvation than the bark of a dog, the chili, which is a very spicy red fruit often used as a seasoning for the kitchen, or some whip. As mentioned earlier, in his sack, he carries with him the bones of his father, but it is also said that he carries and collects those of his victims who, apart from being simply unfortunate, they say, are punished by this entity for being drunk or womanizing. When he meets drunks in the lonely plains, he drinks the alcohol they have ingested directly from their bellies, and women are prisoners of a worse fate, because he shatters them and takes away their bones to become part of his collection. They even say that some innocent people also travel with him in that bag. It is said that he is seen in the plains, mainly in summer times, when the Venezuelan savanna is in extreme droughts. It is then when it is possible to see him sitting on the trunks of fallen trees, counting bones or collecting dust. But when more deaths are reported related to this entity, it is in times of humidity, rain, and completely cloudy skies. So, they believe, it is when he is most hungry for death. It is said that the whistle stops in front of the doors of houses to count its bones, and that if someone in the family or inside that house sees it through one of the windows, a door, or simply hears it, nothing will happen. But if no one sees it or no one hears it, someone inside that family or that house will not wake up the next day. It is also said that the whistle may be different. If the tone is high, the victim who will never wake up will be a woman, but if it is low, it will be a man. Whatever the case, the woman or man who has passed away will be known by the person who has heard the whistle. It is also said that the Silbón chases pregnant women, but that is one of the least heard versions. The true origin and nature of this entity have several accounts. The most amiable and optimistic version, without a doubt, is the one told in the plains of Colombia, where he is known as El Silbador or El Chiflón. It is said that he is the wandering soul of a young womanizer and party-goer who lived a life of revelry, devoted to worldly pleasures, and who died in solitude. They assure he wanders through the plains simply looking for the company of someone who might encounter him late at night, someone who, by chance of fate, rides through those areas. One of the most well-known versions tells that a young man, after signs that denoted something strange happening between his wife and his father, such as evasive looks between them, strange behaviors, unconventional verbal and non-verbal language in their interactions, among others, discovered that indeed something was happening, and it was not something unimportant. The father of this young man had abused her on some occasions and had beaten her. The moment this young man realized was on an occasion when, upon arriving home, he found that terrible scene. And the father, far from showing regret or guilt, simply justified his crime by saying that he had done it because it was a random act, a gift. This, of course, filled the young man with a fury that exceeded his limits, so he rushed against his father and began a body-to-body combat between father and son. During the blows of that encounter, the young man took a stick and hit him in the head, knocking him down and thus beginning to suffocate him with the same stick already on the ground. Little by little, his father was completely losing his oxygen and, later, his life. At that moment, the grandfather, who heard all the noises of that violent scene, arrived and found the lifeless body of his son and his grandson standing next to him holding the stick. The grandfather swore that he would pay for it, and in a short time, he settled with some people who tied the young man and began to beat him with a flood of slaps, while they shouted that this was not done to a father. After cursing him for life and bathing his wounds with agi, the ultimate curse was delivered, designating the Turco dog to chase him for life and for all eternity. Another widely told version assures that the Silbón was a capricious young man, spoiled to the extreme. Since childhood, there was nothing that he did not get. He had everything he wanted when he asked for it. During one of those days, among so many occasions when he had a desire that the family should satisfy, he didn't just ask. He demanded a roast of deer, which was to be prepared with the liver, lung, and heart of the poor animal. His father, subjected to his desires and having to fulfill them immediately, went out hunting to please the desires of his ill-educated son. But the father did not contemplate the bad fortune he had when going hunting, falling night and returning with empty hands. Of course, given the erroneous education of that young man, when he saw his father arrive without his whim, he got so angry that he lost control and ended his father's life. And he did not stop there, for he extracted the necessary organs to fulfill, no matter what, his craving for roast. He took everything to his mother, who completely did not know the whereabouts or the situation of her husband. When she began to prepare everything, she noticed that those ingredients could not soften as usual, so she suspected her son. She looked for her husband, and while doing so, she notified his grandfather, who helped her find out about the tragic crime. When he realized everything, he was cursed by both. They lashed him repeatedly, tearing the skin from his back with each blow. The chili, of course, was not missing, because they rubbed it on the numerous wounds. And they threw the Turco dog to chase him to exhaustion. However, in this version, there is a variant also told, as is customary for legends passed from generation to generation. It begins similarly to the previous one, a young man, spoiled and capricious beyond measure, with such freedom that the concept and knowledge of limits were completely null to him. He left his house during his adolescence simply because he wanted and could. He wanted not only to get lost knowing the world but to get lost in the lowest and most mundane pleasures, the endless party, unbridled alcohol consumption, and sex at the most promiscuous and dangerous levels due to the risk of any infection, given his utter disregard for relevant care. They say that this young man not only lacked control in these pleasure incentives but also had no control over anger or impulses, and much less knowledge of healthy social interaction, so he was several times in prison for the crime of ending the lives of several people. But no one knew how he got out of jail so quickly, or at what moment. Having had enough of all those blows to life, mistreatment, and all the negative consequences he obtained thanks to his lifestyle, the Silbón decided to return to the town where his family lived. In his house, far from receiving him as he was due, thanks to the evils he caused, he was received with such warm affection. Just like parents who refused to accept that their son committed not one, but several crimes, the family would never turn him in. He lived with his family as usual and without any change in the rhythm of life. And during an afternoon, the young man invited his father to go hunting. Entering the forest, after a somewhat long stretch in which the young man guided his father's way, and not the other way around as usual, they came across a small and thin tree, but one that hindered their path due to the twist of its trunk. And when he saw this, the young man asked his father why he did not straighten that tree so that they could pass. His father told him that the tree could no longer be straightened, that it had to be done when it was small and began to grow so that it would be straight, that it was no longer possible to fix it. His son asked him very annoyingly why, if he knew that for something not to grow crooked it had to be straightened when it was young, he still did not do it. Why he had let him grow up as a bad, rude, capricious, and crooked person. He told him that he had no idea how much it had cost him and how much he had suffered for it. So many blows, mistreatments, that he had to end the life of many people to be able to feel alive. The father was left completely speechless, unable to move, as he processed all that he had just realized. But before the unfortunate father could do or say something, the young man took him by the neck, stabbed him, and, just like in the previous version, extracted the organs to take them to his mother, thus satisfying his whim at all costs, leaving his father's lifeless body in that place. In the same way, the mother realized everything that was happening. She cursed him together with his brother and grandfather, they beat him, they rubbed him with chili, and he could not escape the ultimate curse. The Turkish dog would also take care of chasing him throughout his life, because he was not only cursed, but also banished and condemned to wander forever running. And when he stopped to rest, the barking of that dog would remind him that there is no place for rest when a sentence is paid.